It's Lukas from the S2 Live show, and today's guest is Conrad from the YouTube channel Veggies For Thought. Conrad is super inspiring. He's studying right now full-time in his masters, and at the same time he's balancing bodybuilding. So far he's competed in 3 shows and his physique is just incredible. He's super strong as well. At the side he also has his YouTube channel, Veggies For Thought. So for everybody out there who's juggling a full-time job or who's studying full-time and also wants to train on the side, and for anybody who is interested how to build muscle on a vegan diet, there's a lot of info in this interview as well. But without further ado, let's get started. So first of all, thank you for taking the time. I appreciate you taking the time on a Saturday evening. It's Sunday morning here in Bangkok right now and Saturday evening in Ontario, Canada. So for all of the people out there who might not know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you became a vegan bodybuilder and your vegan fitness journey?
Thank you for having me. And the way that I got into vegan bodybuilding was about 3 years ago. I started cutting back on my meat and my dairy consumption and egg consumption for ethical reasons. And eventually I transitioned to a fully vegan diet. So I've been vegan for about 2 years now, and I started competing in some bodybuilding as a vegan. And it went pretty well. So the first show that I competed in was a local bodybuilding show. I competed in Barrie. I competed in the classes of men's physique and classic physique, and those are basically 2 different classes where you go through different posing routines and you have different attire. And I placed in the top 5. I got 4th in classic physique. So I ended up qualifying for the IFBB Pro Qualifier in Toronto, and that was a week later. So I thought, you know what, I'm already in contest shape right now, so I might as well go to this show. So yeah, so those are the 2 shows that I've competed in so far as a bodybuilder.
That's awesome, man. And what did you do before? When did you start training?
Yeah, so I first got into the gym when I was about 16 or so. And a couple of years before that, I was more into long distance running. And even when I started going to the gym, I was still doing lots of running all the time. I was running several times per week always. But in more recent years, I've really had to cut back down on how much I've been running, which is a bit unfortunate because I do enjoy running so much. But I feel when I do lots of cardio, I just find it really difficult to be able to put on any size.
Yeah, I can totally understand. And how much size did you gain actually? Because you were probably kind of athletic but kind of skinny, I assume, because you were doing long distance running, and now you bulked up a lot. How much did you gain throughout the years?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I've always been a really skinny guy, and I've always struggled with putting on weight. And the funny thing is, when I switched to a vegan diet, that's when I found it the easiest to actually bulk. When I was first switching to a vegan diet, I thought, how am I going to be able to put on any size if I'm not going to be eating meat? And I'm eating all this rice, all these lentils, and I'm putting on weight. And I'm going, wait a minute, it's counterintuitive to what I was thinking, you know? Like, it's counterintuitive to what you'd think in terms of traditional bodybuilding knowledge. You know, you think you have to eat lots of meat, you have to eat lots of dairy, but I've been tracking all of my calories really closely, so that's why my weight was able to just continuously go up. So the heaviest that I bulked up to was around last January. I bulked up to 184 pounds, and on stage, I was at a stage weight of 150 pounds and 5% body fat.
Wow, that's pretty lean. Yeah, I saw your pictures on the video, man. You looked insane. Very good form.
Yeah. I was really lean. It's not something that you could maintain year-round.
Yeah, you're more prone to injury, right?
Yeah, I imagine so. Like, you're a lot more tired when you're that lean, and it's something that I didn't notice until later when I gained back my weight. I was thinking, wow, I was really pretty tired when I was in that state. My strength just went down like crazy. I lost almost 100 pounds on my squat when I dropped all this weight. But when your weight comes back, the strength comes back.
And in terms of strength training, what is your routine like? Is it more like a hybrid between strength and focus on hypertrophy, or what's your routine like?
Yeah, so the way that I've always trained has been kind of like a typical hypertrophy training, kind of like what you'd expect for typical bodybuilders, like a lot of isolation movements, more higher reps. But in more recent years, I've been taking a look at some research and seeing, there is a lot of value, I think, to training in different rep ranges. So I've started to include a lot more powerlifting in my training now. So my current training program is very similar to, there's this program called Smolov Junior, where you're working basically from 70 to 85% of your 1 rep max. And the rep ranges that you're doing are between about 6 sets of 6, and then you work your way up to 10 sets of 3. So there's a good amount of volume. You're doing lots of sets, but not too many reps per set. The weight isn't too heavy. And every 4 or 5 weeks or so, you test what your new 1 rep max is. So I've been doing that for a while, and I've been getting pretty consistent results on that. So I'm happy with sticking with this for now. That's what I mostly do. Like, I get my big compounds out of the way first, following Smolov Junior, and then I'll focus on whatever little accessory movements I want to do after that for muscles that I feel that I didn't hit well enough.
Okay, so it's more like a mix. In the beginning, you focus on the like low rep strength, and then afterwards you switch up the rep ranges a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
How many times per week do you train?
I do 4 full body days per week. So all my exercises always start with squats. So I'll do whatever squats I need. So for example, if I'll do 6 sets of 6 of squats, then I'll do bench after that. I'll do 6 sets of 6 of bench, and then I'll do whatever exercises I need to do for back, arms, shoulders, abs, whatever.
That's a heavy workout. How long does it take you usually to finish it?
Yeah, the high volume and high frequency, it really takes a lot out of you. For a little while, I was actually doing Smolov Junior for squat, bench, and deadlift, and I wouldn't recommend that. Usually, Smolov Junior is recommended for just one major lift, like do it on just bench and then do whatever else for all your other muscle groups, or do it on just squats and do whatever else for all your muscle groups. When I did it for squat and deadlift together, my squat still did continue to go up, but my deadlift was kind of lagging. My deadlift has always been a weak point for me.
Interesting, because like for me it's exactly the difference, the other way around. Like squat is always a huge weak point for me, and then deadlift is quite alright, I would say.
Yeah, I often hear that with a lot of people. I feel like almost everybody has a stronger deadlift than squat. But I feel like a couple exceptions are when you look at really, really strong people who are squatting and deadlifting around 1,000 pounds, at that point, they start to have a higher squat than deadlift. So maybe that means I'm meant to get that strong, but I don't think so.
That'd be awesome though. So, but what are your numbers right now in terms of squat, deadlift, bench?
Yeah, so recently I tested what my maxes were. I was able to get a 350-pound pause squat. The heaviest regular squat that I've ever done was 365 pounds. Sorry, are you used to pounds or kilograms?
I'm used to both because I watch a lot of like English YouTube videos, but our viewers are mostly from the US and from Canada anyway. So I think pounds is alright.
Yeah. So I'm used to talking in pounds. So those were my squat numbers. Bench, I recently got a 250-pound bench, and that's the heaviest I've ever benched before. And my deadlift is lagging a little bit behind my squat at 320 pounds.
All right. No, but it's a pretty good pause squat.
Yeah. I've been putting a lot of work into making sure I'm getting that really deep squat, going full depth, getting pause squats. So I remember seeing a couple friends at the gym. Just when you see someone who has a perfect squat at the gym, you see it and you go, I want my squat to look like that. That just looks aesthetically pleasing to be squatting like that. Like, have you heard of Clarence Kennedy before? He's a vegan. He does all kinds of really strong Olympic weightlifting and stuff, and he's got incredible squat technique. People always talk about that. If you haven't seen him before, check him out. He's incredible.
I know he's so strong. Like his clean and jerk. I think I've been watching him for like 7 years on and off. Like not super consistently, but sometimes. He's from Scotland or Ireland or something, right? I'm not entirely sure.
I think he's Irish.
Irish, yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, he's impressive. I didn't know that he was vegan though. I only found out last year.
Yeah, I think he's been vegan for a couple of years now.
I think so too. It's a good sign for the sport for sure.
Yeah, and one thing that I really like that he said, I really like his attitude when he talks about veganism. He talks about how it isn't like some magic diet that isn't going to give you any huge benefits or anything. Well, let me rephrase that. I really like Clarence Kennedy's attitude towards this. I remember him saying something about how he didn't notice any huge differences from switching from what his previous diet was to a vegan diet. He says some people might kind of, I don't want to say blow it out of proportion, but maybe over-exaggerate the benefits of it. And I have had the exact same experience that Clarence Kennedy has had. according to what he said here, that I don't feel like I'm any better on a vegan diet. I don't feel like I'm any worse on a vegan diet in terms of my performance. My performance is continuing to increase. I'm continuing to slowly get a bit stronger, slowly get a bit bigger, just like before.
Yeah, I would say it kind of depends on what your previous status quo was, right? Because I assume also in my case that before you were, even though you were eating meat, you were also probably eating a lot of vegetables. But then people who come from like a fast food, processed food background, and then when they switch to a vegan diet, I mean, it's usually like their health improves so much.
Exactly, yeah. Like there's another YouTuber I was watching recently. I want to say it was Mike Thurston. I can't remember if that's who it was, but he tried a vegan diet for a week or two as a bodybuilder. And he said that he really didn't experience too much of a difference because a lot of what he eats already is similar to a vegan diet. Like he's eating lots of fruits, vegetables, legumes, all this food that's good for you. And he just had to cut out just a little bit of fish and meat just to make it the same as a vegan diet or like a whole food plant-based diet.
I mean, there's certainly some improvements, I would say, even though you take longer to notice them. For example, in my case, it was like I'm not really sick anymore. Which is perfect for training because then it doesn't derail your progress, and then also it kind of decreases the injury rate, I would say, and in general you just think more clearly, I would say. But what are some of the changes that you notice when you switch to a vegan diet?
Okay, the first change that I noticed, this is how I transitioned to a vegan diet. I saw something that inspired me. I listened to, I don't know if you've ever heard of Rich Roll. He's this ultra endurance athlete and he has a podcast. And I listened to 2 interviews that he had. He had an interview with an NFL, well, he's a former NFL player now, David Carter. And there's one with vegan strongman, Patrick Baboumian. And I listened to these and I go, these guys are so strong, they don't need any meat, dairy, or eggs. I go, you know what? I should try this too. But I go, I don't want to go right into this because, I don't know, I was skeptical about it. I go, I don't know if this is going to work fine for me. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this, right? So I thought, let's try to be vegan 1 day a week. So I said, okay, so on Thursdays, I'm going to be vegan. And the reason that I made it Thursday was because at the time, Thursday was a rest day for me. So I thought, if I go vegan, I'm not going to have any energy. I'm not going to get any protein. So I'll do it on a rest day. So if it doesn't work out well, then it's not a big deal anyways. So I was doing this vegan 1 day a week thing. I was doing it every Thursday and I wasn't seeing anything negative. There were no negative impacts on my performance or anything. But here's one point that I did notice that was different. So going to the bathroom has never been difficult for me, but I noticed that after my vegan days that just going to the bathroom was really easy. So I think that's, and one other thing that I noticed was when I cut out on dairy, my skin cleared up a lot. So I think those are the 2 main differences that I noticed since I've been following a vegan diet.
Yeah, also that's my experience. Like dairy, I think dairy probably had the biggest impact on my life, just cutting that out. Because also, I would say that one thing that veganism gives you also is like a, like a mind-muscle connection, but in terms of food. So it has exactly like more like what type of food is good for you, what type of food is bad for you. Because even though I can't prove that dairy caused certain symptoms in myself, I know it for myself. That's the weird thing. It sounds kind of hokey, like but I would say that's something that comes with veganism as well.
Yeah, and there are some other positive changes that I've noticed, and it could be that veganism has contributed to that, but I don't want to say that it's all because of that, because there are some kind of confounding factors. And what I mean by that, like you're saying, you said that you get sick less often, and I noticed I am getting sick much less often now. I used to be sick the entire winter. It could be that I'm getting a lot more antioxidants now from my current diet, from eating a lot more fruit and food like that, and that's making me less sick. But also, I used to run outside through the entire winter. Whether it's minus 20 degrees, minus 10 degrees, I'd be running outside through the whole winter, so I'd always be coughing and sniffling through the whole winter, but now I very rarely get sick. And the other thing, like I noticed that bulking and cutting are a lot easier now that I'm on a vegan diet, and it could be because the food that I'm eating is contributing to that, or it could also be that now I'm tracking my calories more meticulously. I want to make sure that I'm getting in all the nutrients that I need. So now I'm more sure that I'm consistently on a caloric surplus if I want my weight to go down, or I'm constantly staying on a caloric deficit if I want my weight to go down.
That makes sense, yeah. Yeah, then it's hard to track back what the real cause is. It's probably, like you said, like a compound effect.
Yeah, exactly.
And then over the years, of course, your training program probably changed a lot when you became when you went from a beginner to an intermediate advanced lifter. What are some of the tips that you would give somebody who starts out in training, who's a beginner, and then also transitioning to an intermediate stage?
Okay, that's a good question. The way that I would define a beginner lifter is somebody who can come into the gym and every day they lift heavier than they did on the previous day. They're able to constantly increase what their strength is on a day-to-day basis. When you get to the point where you're following a linear progression, something like strong lifts 5x5, for example, when you start plateauing on that, at that point, I think it's useful to start looking into a more intermediate or advanced program. For example, something that might use percentages of your 1 rep max and you do lifting based on that, for example.
That makes sense, yeah. Yeah, in the beginning, definitely like a whole body, full body workout is probably one of the best things.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's a good idea to start to try to optimize what your training is like towards the beginning of when you first start training, because you don't want to just jump in and do whatever at the gym when you first go to the gym, because when you first come into the gym, you could basically go to the gym and do almost anything and you're going to see progress, because you're still going to be in that period of newbie gains where you're a beginner and you're going to progress basically whatever you're doing. But if you start to optimize what your training, what your nutrition, what your rest is like early on, then you're going to be able to go further before you start running into plateaus. You're going to be able to keep progressing for longer before you start to run into problems.
Yeah, I can totally understand, because me personally, and I know a lot of people in the beginning, sometimes for a couple of years even, you make a lot of mistakes. And then in order to prevent that, what you just said makes total sense. But for some people who don't know how to go about that, would you recommend them to go find a mentor, a trainer, or are there any resources that they could refer to? Because you also mentioned Greg Knuckles. What are some of the tips that you would give somebody in order to get all this information?
Okay. If somebody is just starting off and they're brand new to this, they have no idea about how programming works or how training works or what exercises work, what muscle, or if they're not familiar with stuff like this, then I think there is definitely a lot of value in talking with a trainer, for example, or somebody that's more knowledgeable on the topic so that you could learn the ropes on this topic. And there is a lot of value, a lot of information online that is great, that's easily accessible, stuff like Greg Knuckles or Dr. Mike Israetel, for example. They have all kinds of amazing information on training. But the problem with when you're looking at information online with training is you'll see a lot of stuff that is just completely wrong. And as a beginner, how do you know to differentiate between if something is actually good information or if something is just bro science, like eat meat to grow muscle? You need 5 grams of protein per pound of body weight, for example, or something. How do you know to differentiate between one or the other if you're a beginner? So it could be good to talk with somebody that is more educated on the topic, has more experience on it, so that you could learn from them and get some guidance from them on where to start, where to go with your fitness journey.
Did you get a mentor or a trainer when you were preparing for the bodybuilding shows, or were you doing it all by yourself?
Oh boy, no, I learned everything from personal experience, from lots of mistakes. If I had a coach or a mentor or something like that, I would have saved a lot of time, would have saved a lot of lessons learned that I had to personally learn. And for bodybuilding in particular, if you're going into bodybuilding, definitely do get a coach. That is probably the most important thing. I'd say especially for posing. You think, when I was preparing for my bodybuilding show, I had a couple of friends who have competed in some bodybuilding, and they encouraged me to go out and do this bodybuilding. And one piece of advice that I was constantly hearing from them is work on your posing, practice your posing, practice your posing. I was thinking, okay, how hard can it be? You go there, you do a front double bicep, whatever. How hard can it be to go there and hold these poses? But there's so much more to it. It's all about the fluidity, the transition of one pose to another. And if you've seen the movie Pumping Iron, what do you see in the first scene of the movie? There's Arnold in a ballet class, right? Because it's all about these transitions, the movements from one pose to another. So for the diet and getting to a low body fat percentage, I feel like that isn't too difficult to do. You just need to keep your protein high enough, stay on a caloric deficit, make sure you're getting all of your nutrients. But in terms of posing, if you're going for a bodybuilding show, definitely get a coach for posing, 100%. Like, that is where I made all the biggest mistakes. When I got feedback from the judges on how I did in the show, the posing is where I did the worst. That's what I could have improved the most on and how I could have done a lot better.
But then it's even more impressive that you made it to the top 5, even though you were so inexperienced in the posing.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I had some luck in that. The judges said that my conditioning was really well, that my level of leanness was really good. So they were impressed with that. But I definitely could have done a lot better had I gotten some more help. But again, like, it's a lot of lessons learned firsthand from making mistakes, and that's generally the way I go about it. And that might not be the best idea for a lot of people if you're training or if you're trying to lift something heavy. If you hurt yourself, it might be a lesson that stays with you for a while if you injure yourself, right?
So do you have any plans for upcoming shows, or what is your fitness or sports plans in the future?
For the meantime, I'm not planning on doing any bodybuilding right now. Right now I'm coming towards finishing my master's degree right now. I'm hoping to finish in the next couple of months. And after that, I'll see. I think I'd like to do at least one more bodybuilding show. We'll see how it goes, though.
So what are you studying, actually?
I'm studying civil engineering. So I did my undergrad in civil engineering and structural engineering, and I'm doing my master's degree in the same thing. So I'm looking at material deterioration, stuff like that.
I understand. So in the next couple of months, you will be too busy to prepare for a bodybuilding show, kind of.
Yeah.
You have different priority right now.
Exactly. It is preparing for a bodybuilding show and getting to a really lean body fat percentage like that, and all the meal prep and the training. It's a really stressful period of time to go to, and it demands a lot of energy. So trying to do that on top of school, on top of work, and a lot of people do that they're working a full-time job and they still manage to get the time to prep for a bodybuilding show. But it's really stressful and it does take a lot of energy. So it's not something that I'm planning on doing while I'm coming to the end of my master's degree, writing my thesis, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so you mentioned that you're a full-time student right now doing your master's, and I know that different from Europe, in the States or in Canada, the time is actually, like, you're very, very involved in your school. It takes up a lot of your day. Can you take us a little bit through your regular day? What does it look like? Because a lot of people who are watching this, they have a busy job or they're studying themselves, and it would probably help to show how you manage to still get better, still get bigger as an athlete, while juggling your school as well on the same time.
Okay, yeah. So currently, my days vary quite a bit, but let me tell you a bit about what it was like in my undergrad first. So in undergrad, we had classes roughly from 8 o'clock to 6 o'clock, and it would vary a bit day by day. Sometimes we'd have like an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours break in between some classes. So what I would do at the beginning of every semester, when I would get my schedule for school, I would base my workout schedule off of that. So whatever schedule I was given for work, life, school, my gym schedule would be based completely around that, and it'd basically be a no exceptions thing. If I had an exam that I had to study for or something, I'd have to make sure that I studied for it and I was ready for it ahead of time, because I'm not going to skip out on the gym just so I could go study for an exam. I have to be ready for that exam ahead of time because I have to go to the gym. You know, the gym, it's a really high priority for me. I'm not going to skip the gym for anything.
But then in terms of meal prepping, how did you did it once a week in order to have all your meals for the university, or how did you go about your meals?
Oh, that's a great question. The way that I would go about my meal prepping is I would cook rice and lentils. That is basically my main go-to meal almost every single day. That is like the base of my lunch and dinner. So I used to cook it on a stovetop. I do it in a pressure cooker now because I find it's a little bit easier to do in a pressure cooker. So I'd weigh out some rice, I'd weigh out some lentils, I'd cook that, and I'd cook for 3 or 4 days ahead of time. And it always seems to run out way too quickly. That I feel like, okay, there, I've got this rice and lentils ready. I'm not going to have to cook for a while. I've got my food set for a while. But it just always runs out quickly, and I have to find myself just always cooking. It's only maybe twice a week, I guess, that I have to cook, but the time just goes by so quickly that it feels like I'm always cooking.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. Especially when you're like meal prep has its upsides, but then at the same time, when all the food is already available, you're more likely to eat it as well, and then it goes away pretty quickly. All right, so you mentioned that your go-to vegan protein sources are lentils, and then you also have some rice. What is like a typical meal that you eat throughout the day?
All right, so I have almost the same food every single day, and I know some people might not like the idea of that, thinking that you'd get bored of eating the same thing every day, but my food is just so delicious that I love eating it. I'm happy to eat it every single day. So for my breakfast, I'll have an oatmeal shake. That's what I have. I got this idea from a friend of mine at the gym a couple of years ago, good friend of mine, Isaiah, where I'd weigh out some, oatmeal. I'd put in a banana, soy milk, peanut butter, chia seeds, hemp seeds, put that into a blender, blend it up. And I used to drink it like that, but more recently I've been putting some toppings on that, like fruits, nuts, more seeds onto that. So that is my go-to breakfast. I've been having this for breakfast for a couple of years now, so absolutely love this. For lunch and dinner, I usually have rice and lentils as a base. Sometimes I'll put that into, let's say, like a curry or a chili, for example. If I feel like I have time, or if I want to have something nice for a special occasion, then I'll do that. And I'll have some snacks throughout the day. I could have maybe like a peanut butter jelly sandwich or some pretzels or some more fruit or something. And in the evening, generally, I'll have another shake. I really like how frozen bananas taste in shakes. So in the evening, I'll have like a frozen banana, some soy milk, peanut butter, stuff like that in a shake. And when I'm on contest prep, that is really the only time that I'm having protein powder. So that's when I'll have some protein powder in a shake. Otherwise, I'll have that shake without protein powder. Oh, and I like cocoa powder. That goes nice in that shake too, the cocoa powder. So it's all these just delicious flavors like banana, peanut butter, chocolate. They all go so well together.
Sounds good, man. Yeah, that was already actually my next question, if you take any supplements, but you already answered that like protein is only part of your content prep diet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I've never taken like creatine or anything like that. Never taken any like anabolic steroids, testosterone, growth hormone, nothing like that. I always wanted to be like as natural as I could be, so I could show people like, look, this is how big you could get naturally. This is what you can achieve without any kind of enhancement, without any kind of performance enhancing drugs. That's why for years I didn't even use any protein powder, because I'm like, oh, but what if it's like part of that category? You know, I want to show people what you could just achieve with food. But then I'm thinking, you know, this is kind of silly. Like protein powder just comes from food, so.
I know a lot of people have like a bad connotation when it comes to protein powder.
Yeah, exactly. Or like pre-workout. Like if you have some pre-workout, people sometimes, if they are not too familiar with the fitness world, they'll look at it like it's some kind of a drug deal or something if you give them pre-workout.
But did some people actually already accuse you of taking steroids? Because I mean, that's one of the best compliments that you can get as a natural lifter.
Yeah, I do get it, but very rarely, because to be honest, if you look at my stats, like at a height of 5'8", 5'9", I was 150 pounds at 5% body weight. And if you look at how long I've been lifting for almost 10 years now. So I don't know. I don't think it's very unreasonable to think that that could be achieved naturally.
I mean, there's always some people, especially on YouTube, that will accuse anybody who achieved something in their fitness goal. But I mean, it's a good compliment to get in the end.
Yeah.
In terms of recovery methods, is there anything that you incorporate, like saunas, massage, maybe like foam rollers or something?
I have gotten a deep tissue massage twice in my life. The first one I really enjoyed. The second one was okay. And I like it a lot. It's really nice. It could really help with... It's helped me. I used to have lots of like painful kinks in my back and stuff like that. So getting something like this from time to time, I could see it definitely helping a lot of people. What I do enjoy, I do something that's like foam rolling, except instead of a foam roller, I'll use like just a stiff ball, and I'll put it like along parts of my back. Wherever I'm feeling like I have a kink or some kind of pain, then I'll just roll out that spot for a little while. And as for the sauna, I know a lot of people generally go to the sauna after their workout, and I do that sometimes too. But what I do that may be a bit unusual is at my university's gym, there's a sauna there. So I'll often go to the sauna before my workout and do a little bit of stretching there just to get my body warmed up, make sure that my blood's flowing warm okay. And I do a little bit of warming up in the sauna, and I feel that that helps me.
Nice. Yeah, sauna is definitely one of the nicest recovery methods I find, because massage can be really, really painful.
Yeah.
But sauna is just to relax your body, everything releases, all the toxins come out. Just super nice.
Yeah, yeah.
In terms of mistakes, I mean, everybody has done a lot of mistakes in the beginning. What are some of the most common mistakes that you see people make in the gym when they start out?
A mistake that I think I see often is people coming into the gym and trying to push more weight than they can handle. For example, it's as if some people have just seen pumping iron and they're looking at the way Arnold and these other bodybuilders are training, where they're just grinding through every rep, and these people are imitating that. So I think that form is absolutely so important, whether you're doing deadlift, squats, even if you're doing something like curls. I feel like there's just a lot of cheating in reps that I see. A lot of people just try to move weight just to say that they could move a certain amount of weight. But I think it's so much more important to get that mind-muscle connection, focus on actually using your muscle to move the weight, because that's the goal at the end of the day, right? You want to grow your muscle so that you're stronger. You don't want to just move weight just to move weight. And if I could add one more thing to that, I think another problem that I often see is in terms of training. You see, a lot of people come into the gym and they just have this balls to the wall method of training, where every day you just got to give it 100%. Every day you got to come in, you got to be stronger than you were the day before. But that isn't a sustainable way of training. At first, when you come into the gym, yeah, you're going to be stronger every day you come into the gym. You're going to be able to lift more weight every day you come into the gym. But you're going to hit a plateau with that. And if you keep trying to train in this 90 to 100% of your max intensity, and you keep trying to push at that, you're just going to injure yourself. There's value in lifting lighter weight.
So coming back to that, are you incorporating like regular deloads, like deload days, deload weeks, or is there just like one day where you have like a little bit lower volume, a little bit lower weights? How do you go about that?
Yeah, exactly. I incorporate deloading weeks in my training regularly. So the way that my current training schedule works is whenever I test what my 1 rep max is, which is every 4 to 5 weeks or so, after that, I'll take a deload week, where for a week I'll either do no lifting, but it's impossible to stay away from the gym for a week. So I'll come in and I'll do really light lifting, like half or less than half of what I normally do, just to do some movement, do a little bit of body weight. But yeah, there's a lot of value in deloading, and I think under resting is probably more of a problem than overtraining in a lot of people at the gym.
What are the best ways for the listeners if they want to learn more about you, if they want to talk to you, get inspired by you? What is the best way to follow you or to get in touch with you?
Yeah, you could check me out on YouTube, Veggies For Thought. You could leave a comment any of my videos. I check that regularly. You could also send me a message on Reddit. I'm often on Reddit, but YouTube will be better. I try to stay away from social media. I don't have like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, anything like that. So YouTube is the best way.
I know it takes up a lot of time if you try to get like multiple ways of social media in the end, because YouTube is already taking a lot of time in the end.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, then I just want to say thank you for the great insights. Thank you for the nice talk. It was great having you as a guest. I appreciate you taking the time, especially on a Saturday evening.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate you having me. You're doing amazing work here. Really happy to be here. I like, the interviews that you're doing. Your recipes are amazing. I've tried one of your recipes before. I got to try some more of them. I really like them. The presentation looks beautiful. So thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Conrad. I appreciate it.